Right, so it's 4 o'clock. We got here at 8:30. The car is absolutely fixed. I was amazed that my issue was principally wheel alignment. So the front inner and outer track rod ends have been replaced. My steering has been completely transformed. They also did the rear coffin arms because basically the bushings had worn, and I still can't get over myself that I always had this doubt where in the center of the wheel there was a bit of play, and I always saw that as looseness in the steering rack, in the kind of the bushings or something, because it seemed very mechanical to me. As these guys have explained to me, that play was because my front tyres were kind of fighting with each other. They weren't working together, and with the motion of the car, when I used to put down my gas on the accelerator, the car would kind of go to one end and I'd have to correct it. It's just things that I've got used to, because obviously the car had a wheel alignment done when the front subframe come out for the front coolant hoses. That was done at Porsche Brooklands. I don't know if you know the videos that I did back then, but that was done twice at Porsche Brooklands, because the first time I wasn't happy, I went back, they did it again. Then obviously they just put the anti-roll bars on, so they basically did that again. Only a week ago this car was done. They've done the alignment here, but it's just absolutely bang on. So what I've learned from this, not everybody does wheel alignment similarly. These guys are specialists, so if you looked at the amount of money that I've paid, the amount of time they've spent, they generally allow 4 hours for labour. I've left spending £1,000 here. I'll get the invoice later because they can't give it to me on paper due to COVID-19, but I believe that breakdown is probably about 50-50, so it's 50% parts, 50% labour. Some of you may say, what's £500 for a lot of labour, but the labour is also fitting the new parts. I've just learned so many things. My car is transformed. I'm so happy that, you know, it's back to how it should be. Before I go home, let's listen to the exhaust.
The route that we're going to do now is exactly the same as the route we did this morning, until the point that I'm happy. We'll then stop at the side of the road. We're going to do a swap, and then I'm going to give you a slightly different route back, for two reasons. One, you have specified the car's majority use is A and B roads.
Yes.
And two, we don't need to go through the town over the speed bumps and the cobbles again, because we've rectified all the issues that might have made a noise this morning. So it's the same tests, same speeds, same lanes as we did before. Obviously this time I expect the car to do those normal car things. And we'll demonstrate it as we go anyway.
And the only thing that you said was mandatory was one of the outer ball joint ends. Was it inner ball joint? Because it was just on one side, could that affect how the car is just handling over bumps and just steering in general? Or?
It would do. It wasn't that bad. I've taken it off, and I can show you when we get back. It was enough that we could feel it at the wheel. But absolutely, it would contribute to the dead spot, the vagueness, and some of the front handling traits that we had before.
See, this is going to be interesting, because I was watching you and what you were doing on all these roads, and I saw how the wheel behaved, so yeah. I'll be able to even see it independently.
So if you remember this morning with the steering wheel straight, she started by going right, and we got to the crest of the road and she changed her mind and then decided that she was going to go left, and nothing had changed, if you know what I mean. Where now with the steering wheel dead straight, she continues to go in a straight line.
There's a marked difference, because it really did actually
drift. Yeah. And again, the argument is that if it can't go straight at 5 miles an hour, it will not go straight at 50 miles an hour. So, and she should stay in a straight line. She shouldn't deviate.
And it's principally geometry. It's kind of, I mean, that's initially what you suspected.
Absolutely.
And that,
yeah.
Wow.
The next little test is our roundabout that we did this morning. Now obviously the difference now is that the tyres have gone cold, because you'd obviously driven up on them this morning, and it's rained, and we haven't had rain for a while, so this roundabout will be a little bit slippy. But we should turn in. We had understeer this morning. It's a bit damp and a bit greasy, but let's see what she does. Understeer, but I would expect that in the wet. Still nothing from the rear. I have softened your rear roll bar as well.
Oh, thank you.
But that more proves the point that the car is safe. So again this morning she wanted to kind of pitter-patter all around here, where now she's nice and rock steady. I'm not holding that.
Was the geometry out that much, by the way?
no.
So they,
But the car is very sensitive.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Especially the front axle.
Okay.
So next onto the dual carriageway, and again, just as a bit of a reminder to this morning, left cambered roads, right cambered roads. When we got onto the left camber, it was a count of sort of two and a bit, 3 seconds maybe, until the car went from the middle of the lane to the curb. Much too quick. Whereas when we got to the right camber, it was much more gradual. It took sort of 7 seconds to get to the right. Where now it should be equal. So she should drift to the right, drift to the left, and then drift to the right. And the sun's come out. So keep it a fair test. We'll do it at the same speed. We'll stay in the same lane as we did this morning. I've only got light pressure on the wheel, and slowly off she drifts to the left hand side. Where this morning it was almost straight away, you know, even letting go of the wheel.
Yeah. This was the same spot, it just went that way.
Yeah.
And that's the picture we saw at the beginning did have both wheels going that way, didn't it?
Correct, yeah. So, again, keep it a fair test. We'll stay at the same speed, we'll do it in the same lane. It's a hard right camber, and she should now drift off to the right. A little bit quicker this time than she did before. Again, steering wheel straight, and slowly off to the right. Now, if you remember this morning when we accelerated, she pulled us to the right. So I'm going to hold her, so stop her from falling, right? And when we accelerate, she should be arrow straight. Nothing.
Wow. See, but the thrust angle was out 0.01.
Correct.
But the car moved a lot when
this is why we do the test. Because
someone would have seen that.
Because on paper, the car looked okay.
Correct. Someone would have seen 0.01. I would have said, well, you're not going to get any closer than that anyway, so don't do anything.
These cars are sensitive. Even when it comes down to tyre pressure, you know, ever so sensitive.
Is that because they're so kind of well built, they show up all the imperfections?
Absolutely, and it's a finely tuned machine. And you know, she's lovely and straight now. Nothing.
Yeah, that's all that.
And that dead spot that we had this morning, in that straight ahead, where you know you could do that and nothing would happen. Now it's nice and crisp and sharp, and she wants to go back to being straight ahead.
Wow.
I'm glad it stopped raining. I haven't had any rain here.
That's exactly. I remember when I first got this car, I was amazed by how good the steering was.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have figured out that geometry and wheel alignment would give me that precision at the centre point.
Absolutely. And it's very precise now. You make a change, and you get a change.
Yeah.
Where this morning, if you remember, on the same bit of road, we were constantly having to fidget at the steering wheel because she wanted to play over there, she wanted to play over there. She didn't know what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
Some people think that's normal because it's a sports car. So, onto our little bit of B road now. Now, she wasn't bad down here, but as soon as we got up to any kind of speed, the back of the car started to move us around. And we got to, 60 miles an hour, and she started to become a bit of a handful, and I certainly needed to hold on. I mean, this is proper Cayman territory, really, this road. And it's still literally just thumbs in the loops.
So was this a geometry correction, or was
This is
the
geometry.
bushes?
A little bit of the bushes as well.
Okay.
But I mean, that's no hands. Even, you know, hitting the bumps, hitting the white lines. She's just following the road all on her own.
Just out of interest, like how many hours would you say you've put into the geometry side of things? Because some places can do this in 45 minutes, but is it much more than just using the machine and dialing things in?
It is. Obviously, the process of geometry, ignoring the changing of parts, we allow for 4 hours. Obviously, the actual physical adjustment doesn't take that long. But the difference, I would like to think the difference between us is that I made a change. I got the car to where I wanted it. I then pushed the car back off the ramp, asked the machine to forget what I'd just done, and then I measured it again to make sure that the results that I got were repeatable. If I do that and the results that I get are different to what I got the first time, I will then measure it again until I can get repeatability.
Gotcha.
And it's all about repeatability, because as I said, the first thing I said to you this morning was never believe a machine. So it's always, if you need to, measure twice, measure 3 times, measure 4 times, cut once. So we can rely that if I took this car back in the workshop now or tomorrow or next week, given that the car is looked after and doesn't hit anything major, I can reproduce these results again and again and again.
Awesome.
So the actual physical adjustment work, probably, bearing in mind all of the rear adjusters were new, the front toe adjusters were brand new because we've replaced those parts today. The front top mounts were not new, but they're easy to adjust. The physical adjustment of this car, having measured it 3 times, probably took me an hour and a half.
But then they say you should do this alignment every year. So if I don't do anything, just by driving over bumps and on the road surfaces, will I lose all that alignment?
No. So there's 3 reasons why you would need to come back to us or get it checked. The first reason is the obvious reason, that you bend it or you break it. So if you hit a pothole or a curb and it's sufficient that it eggs the tyre or cracks the wheel, then you should get it checked, because that shock will go up the car. Second reason is you lose confidence in it. Maybe another part wears out, a toe arm ball joint or a wheel bearing or a top mount, and as a result of changing those parts, you would lose your geometry. Or the third reason is that you decide for yourself that you're going to change the mode of use. So at the minute we've gone for A and B road use, emphasising the B road side of it a bit more. In a year's time you might decide that you're going to use it as a track car, and the setup for a track car would be very different. Or you might decide it's going to be a GT car that's going to do cross-continental driving. That setup would be very different. You do not need to get it checked every year. The biggest telltale, if something changes or if something is amiss, whether it's the front axle or the rear axle, because they're all connected as you saw this morning, is the steering wheel goes off. So if the steering wheel is not straight, then something has changed.
I can't wait to have a go.
Your turn.
Excellent.
So I'm going to take you back down some A and B roads, hopefully similar to what you enjoy driving anyway. Junction, we're going to take a left this time, please. So this is going to take us onto a reasonably quick bit of A road. So we've got a couple of sweeping S-bends coming up, nothing too technical, but going back to that single input steer thing.
You've done it already. The thing that annoyed me so much was that the softness in the centre. You've done it. You've nailed it.
The thing is, with confidence, so if I can give you confidence, that's all I need to give you. The speed will just come. You won't realise you did it. It's not even. You know what? I think I had to correct so many things before. Like the road surface would unsettle the car, and I'd have to correct it with steering input. It's totally transformed. But it should, as we keep going back to, it should, when you're doing stuff like this, just drive like a normal car. So you can ignore the badge on the steering wheel and just drive it like a normal car.
Well, no, I've got it already, and it's the confidence. Like, there was a part of me that was thinking, well, maybe my car's so old, it's just wear and tear, and I got to live with it because I can't get a new car. But you've brought this car back to how it was when I got it.
Well, fundamentally the car is new, because the bits that are not replaced are still healthy. Some of the bits are new, of course, but the car drives like a new car.
I mean, look, I've never been able to do this. Never. unless you tell it where to go, it won't go there. Which I know it sounds obvious, but
the other thing, and I don't want to put words into your mouth because I want you to go and explore it, is that once you've told it where to go, it should want to go back to straight ahead again, where before it would wander.
One thing I found is that when I used to boot it stays in a straight line now. This comes down to that thrust angle.
Yeah.
It sounds so silly, but
simple things. So this is going to take us back down a nice undulating bit of B road. Hopefully this is a bit more similar to what you enjoy driving.
Yeah.
So as you saw the Golf, the road shoots away and right.
It's the confidence that I've got back now.
So it's now nice and straight. Even over the brow it's straight.
Look at that.
And she should be rock steady.
Yeah. Wow. I think just coming out of my mate's GT4 then, the only thing I'd like is stiffer shocks.
Yeah. You know, even transitions like that over the white line, before it'd want to tug and it'd want to pull.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean about it wants to go back to centre as well.
Yeah. And look,
I noticed that.
Single input and no skipping across the road.
The back used to hop out a bit, but I don't know if that would be a geometry thing. When you go around a corner over a bump, the back would
kick.
Yeah.
That was the difference in the rear cambers that would do that.
Oh really?
And you had a lot more camber on the rear before compared to what you have now. So I've stood your rear wheels up. So when you hit stuff like that, the car goes up and down rather than side to side.
I can certainly tell you've been doing this a while. This is not the first time you've set up a car. This just makes me feel that for the last 18 months I've been driving with it substandard.
It's nice and straight.
Yeah. I do love that. That thrust angle thing I just grown to live with. So have you set this up with a little bias for UK roads because of the camber?
Oh, she's down the line.
Oh really?
Down the line symmetrical.
Wow.
Which is why she goes left and right.
See, that's interesting because I've heard some people say that they set it up for a camber.
That's we're going to go straight over this roundabout, please. Second exit. You can do that. Companies like Mercedes do that from the factory, and then it's first left. The problem with that is this one, please. Yeah. The problem with that is that if you do a lot of motorway miles, it stops the car from tending to the left-hand side. Should you go into Europe, it just makes it pull right even more. Okay. The argument for me not doing it for your car is that you asked for an A and B road style car, where the camber of the road is crested in the middle. So if you want to use all of the road, or you want to overtake, next left, and you want to use all of the road so you can see what's coming, you want to overtake, or whatever, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be on left cambers and right cambers. So if I put a bias into the car to go one way or the other, it will then perform differently depending on which side of the road you're on. So we always go for symmetry. Symmetry is king.
I think you are king, Pete, for me.
Wow. More of a prince, I think, mate. More of a prince.
So there you have it. That's the end of part 3, and my car is back handling as it should do. Was it expensive? Yeah, it was. But then again, the car that I have handles the way I want it to handle, and there's nothing worse than being disappointed in the car that you drive. I can gladly say the handling is back on form and I'm happy with the car. Enjoying life and cars to the max.